Welcome everybody, welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers. Tonight we're learning also Le'ilu Nishmat, my grandmother, Tzila Bat Rabbi David. So today we're going to be speaking about Erev Rav. So it's going to be the evil, the corrupt, the arrogant of the Jewish nation that is preventing Mashiach from coming. And but before we get to that, I had, for one of my close students, send me an email today that I have to share with you regarding Islam. So this is an article that was written by a European, from my understanding. His name is Sebastian Villar Rodriguez. And he wrote an article as post the Holocaust, in a difference to the Muslim, what the situation going on in Europe right now. So I want to actually read a few lines from here, if you bear with me, and you can see how this is. By the way, this is a view from a very, very small minority of the non-Jews. Generally, the non-Jews, look at CNN, like they all side with the Palestinian. Now look at it from this aspect. So he goes like this. He says, Europe died in Auschwitz. We killed 6 million Jews and replaced them with 20 million Muslims. We destroyed the chosen people, the truly chosen, because they produce great and wonderful people who change the world. And this contribution is in all areas of life: science, art, international trade, and above all, the conscience of the world. And because we wanted to prove ourselves that we were cured of a disease of racism, we opened our gates to 20 million Muslims who brought, and I'm quoting, us stupidity and arrogance, religious extremism, lack of tolerance, crime, and poverty. They have blown up our trains and our beautiful Spanish cities and turning it into third world, drowning in filth and crime. We have exchanged the pursuit of peace of the Jews and the talent for a better future for their children, because of their life, which is considered holy, for those who pursue death, who desire death for themselves and for others, for our children and theirs. And he says, and then he ends off this segment. He says, what a terrible mistake that was made by miserable Europe. Then he goes on to explain, and I think this is part of the article, how many Muslims received the Nobel Prize versus how many Jews received a Nobel Prize. And I have a list of everybody who received what. I'm not going to go through that because we're going to be here for a while. Not from the Muslim side, from the Jewish side. But from so we have what? We have about 1.8 billion Muslims. You're talking about almost 25% of the world population is Muslim. How many do you think Nobel Prize winners are there from the Muslim side? Five, yeah. Close, 7. 1 in literature, 4 for peace, and 2 for medicine. Yasser Arafat is in there for peace, yeah.
What country was that from, the article that you just read?
It's European, I don't know. I would assume maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
He said Spanish.
He said Spanish, so it could be Spanish, but I don't know. How many think the Jews? So Muslim 7, what are we up to the Jews? Jews, by the way, let's put a little bit of numbers though. So they're 1.8 billion, about 25% of the world population roughly. You have the Jews were about 14 million, which is 0.02%. Of the world population. We don't even make 0.5%. So how many of that do you think we have in the Nobel Prize winning?
57.
Whoa, Rachel.
It's a very specific number also. The number is 129. 129 from that. And I'll break it down really quickly. Literature, 10. Peace, 8. Physics, 53. Economics, by the way, I forgot to tell you, they have 0 for physics and 0 for economics. So Jews, physics, 53, economics, 13, medicine, 44, for a total of 129. So Europe did a really excellent job by kicking us out and inviting in all the shaheeds that they're going to get to the next world. And the Jews are, I'm already past that. The Jews are not promoting, any brainwashing of the children. There's no military training camps like we spoke about last week for the kindergarten. We don't hijack planes. We don't kill any athletes in the Olympics. We don't blow ourselves up in German restaurants. And the Muslim, he says, he goes on. This is, by the way, this is still him. This is still his words, not mine. So I'm just a delivery guy. Whoever's into it has offense with this. I'm just sending a thing.
Right? The messenger's always the one.
Yeah. He says that perhaps, listen to this, that perhaps the world's Muslims should consider investing more in standard education and less in blaming the Jews for all their problems. This is not a Jewish person writing this article. Muslims must ask what can they do for humankind before they demand what humankind does for them. And this he says something, he quotes Benjamin Netanyahu. He goes and says, if Arabs put down their weapons today, there will be no more violence. If Jews put down their weapons today, there will be no more Israel. And he goes like this, and he finishes off with this idea. General Eisenhower, he said when they liberated the Jews from the Holocaust, so he told it in all the death camps and in all the concentration camps, he said over there, get everything on record. Take videos, take pictures, take everything on record. Why? because somewhere down the road in history, and he uses a very rude terminology, blank, will get up and say that this never happened. And look, he said recently in the United Kingdom there was a debate if we should remove Holocaust from the curriculum that they're studied in the schools. Why? Because it offends the Muslim population who state that it never happened. And this was a debate. This was like, should we do it or should we not? Yeah. So, and then he finishes off with this. He says, how many years will it be before the attack on the World Trade Center never happened because it offends the Muslim in the United States? So this is what we're dealing with in the days before Mashiach. Yeah, he is. By the way, this is something very, very interesting to see, because you look at how much outright evidence there is in the world. How it's like, how can you still blame the Jews for what's going on in the Middle East? It makes absolutely no sense. Rather, we have to see, and we have to come to the conclusion that it's only God orchestrating everything, and you have to be an idiotic and blind not to see that. Not to see the fact that we're able to survive in such a country with all this going around, and all this is going around. That's two things that you should be able to, stick out. So now let's go to the topic of the end of days. Now you think, okay, so we have the Islam against us, and we have the Christians against us. The Western, everybody. We have the exile of Edom and the exile of Ishmael. Now, you think, okay, so those are the two people. But it says there's one group of people that hurt us more than both those combined together. And that is the group of Erev Rav. So this is what we're going to be discussing today, the Erev Rav. So, the people always ask me, what Jews are not going to make it in the end of days. That's for this class. This is the class that we're going to discuss. Who is not going to make it at the end of days. So, but before we get into that, bouncing on continuation from what we just said in that article. 2,000 years ago, you know how many Jews there were? According to rough estimates, of course, it was about 10 million Jews. 2,000 years ago, do you know how many Chinese people there were? 25 million. So when there were 10 million Jews, 10 million, did I say 10,000? 10 million. 10 million Jews and 25 million Chinese, that was 2,000 years ago. Now, there is 14 million Jews, that's an addition of 4 million, and there's 1.3 billion Chinese. What happened over there? According to the normal population dynamics, not including the birth rates of the Jews versus the birth rate of the Asians, which is like one per family or whatever it is, one male, I don't know exactly what the restrictions is, but they have a restriction. We have no restriction. We should have at least a minimum of 500 billion Jews. It should at least, just so normal population dynamics, we should be there. The question is, where are we? And the answer is, thank you to the Christians and thank you to the Islam for the persecution that they constantly go and they constantly murder us and they constantly track after us. And now we have somebody additional to also to thank, and that's the Erev Rav, which push all for the assimilation, and we're losing also tons. Nowadays it's called the silent Holocaust, because we're losing everybody towards the assimilation. The Vilna Gaon goes and he says, this is 200 years ago, and he says the Erev Rav, they would grab control of the Jewish government and they would become leaders of the nation. He says this 200 years ago, we didn't even have a nation. And he continues, he says the Erev Rav, they will be with extraordinary chutzpah. They're going to be the type of people that they cast off the yoke of the Torah, the yoke of heaven, and they're going to be, for some odd reason, they're very, very strongly woven into the Jewish nation. So they're going to completely throw away anything that's Jewish, but still stay to the Jewish side, and because of that, they will put all their heresy and their heretics and all the bad ideologies, and it would infest it into the Jewish nation. And these are also the people, the arrogant rich, who constantly run after their own cravings. The Rav Yosef Migash, 900 years ago, he wrote that there will be before Mashiach comes, there will be Jewish extremists who provoke an intense amount of hatred towards Torah scholars. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on in Israel, but there are people in the government that they have a strong, and it's visible, they don't hide it, a very strong hatred towards the religious. The religious should be in the army, the religious should go to work, the religious, etc. and etc. So, who is the Erev Rav? We first have to discuss this. It's a terminology that we use a lot. So people generally like to call Amalekim people that they don't like. Erev Rav, people they don't like. Who is it? How can we define it? I'm going to give you two answers. One's going to be simple and one's going to be a detailed answer. For the simple answer, there was, when the Jews left Egypt, so there were a bunch of Egyptians that wanted to convert and wanted to join the Jewish nation. Generally, you have all those people that are always like to be on the winning side. There's whatever. Let's say you waste your time watching sports. I'm sure no one here, but whatever. But assuming that somebody goes and wastes their time watching sports, so you got a guy who's not a sport, he doesn't know anything about it. So he says, who are you rooting for? Like, I don't know, who's winning? I'll root for them. You always want to be on the winning side. Yeah, I like to be the winning side. So. There are also people like that in the world. They see the Jews are up, so they want to be also a part of the Jewish nation. That is why, by the way, we don't accept Jewish converts when Mashiach comes. Because of course everyone's going to want to convert. We don't accept that anymore. So,
Wait, You don't accept Jewish converts
Converts to the Jewish nation.
after Mashiach is here.
Okay, but right before, like
Yeah.
like the second before, you're gonna say
They
yes.
dip in the mikvah and they're dead, right?
Even if they're in the process, they're good. Even if they didn't get there yet.
Oh.
So as long as they started the process and they're legit. Not like there are some people that I know that are in the process for a very long time, and so like it doesn't take you 10 years to convert. It means that you're really not interested. Those type of people, they're not going to make it. But someone who's literally in the process.
I'm so sorry. I just have a question.
Yep.
What if, like, because in a lot of the Kavkazi community, the Gorski community, there's a lot of what are they called? The Musulman? What are they called?
Muslims, basically.
Muslims. Okay, there's Muslim moms and Gorski dads, right?
there's
Yeah.
a lot
And the
of
kids, they believe that they're Jewish.
They're not Jewish.
those. We know that.
Right.
We
They
know
think
that, but they think that, and they're raised the Jewish way and the Gorski
go to
way,
yeshiva,
and they know
right?
better
They
than
go to
me.
yeshiva.
Like, which is all cool. and
That's
dandy.
problematic. That is very
So what
problematic, especially when it comes
happens to
to
them? Because-
they're not Jewish. They hopefully pray to God that they convert, but they're not considered Jews.
Okay.
Yeah.
All they have to do to convert is just dip in the mikvah.
Well, no, they have to accept Judaism. They have to go through the test. They have to do everything. Same conversion. So, I mean, generally, those type of people would, there are some rabbis that we try to, get them to convert because they're sort of in the family, but they still have to go through the same conversion, same full-fledged conversion.
But what if they live like goyim and they think, and they're okay with living like goyim?
They don't get converted. We reject those.
No. Like, what if they want to stay goyim? No, they think they're Jews, but they want to stay goyim. Like, they don't want to convert.
Right,
'cause they
'cause
already
they-
think
They're considered non-Jews. They're considered non-Jews.
They believe that they are.
I know. I've spoken to a few of them, and I told them that you're not Jewish, and they were pretty shocked. And especially when they were dating. I have one. What am I supposed to do? I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that you're Jewish. I had one guy that's dating a Jewish girl, and his father is Jewish, but his mother is not. I said he's like what do you and he actually surprisingly he comes to my classes. So one of my classes I said so I keep on telling him I'm like and he loves her. He really does. He wants to marry her. And I said then convert. So he says but do I have to keep Shabbat? I'm like yeah. And he says what if I can't? I'm like then don't convert. He says but I love her. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is what it is. So he, and it goes back and forth, and and he keeps on, and he's like, and I tell him, I'm like, if you're not going to, you're causing her to do a great sin. She's not allowed to be with you. You love her, then let her go. Let her fly away.
Sorry, here's another question. So sorry.
Yeah.
That's really funny. How many generations do you need proof of you that you're Jewish? Because sometimes this can get lost with our people. You need like 3 generations, right?
Generally speaking, if you have that can get really detailed depending on the situation. That's a question on the side. But if your parents are Jewish and they were raised Jewish and you come from a Jewish background and you have it's Jewish down the line, then there's no question about it.
But
then it goes into a lot of details.
Okay,
then you have to dig into it. So there's some people that they do conversions just in case. There was. I'll tell you a story that happened. There was, and I want to go back to this otherwise because we have a lot of stuff and a lot of information. No, it's fine. So there was a person that became religious. He was not religious, became religious, and he was learning in yeshiva. Like not like for an hour a day. It was like full time in yeshiva. And as the process was going on, they were talking and they were discussing, and the rabbi mentioned something about reform conversion. And he says, some people that convert reform is not considered a conversion. So he's like, so one of the kids raised his hand and he says, he says, I think his mother was a convert and she converted reform. And now he's sitting in yeshiva learning for like a year and a half or something, learning yeshiva like that. So the rabbi says, are you serious? You got to go and convert right now. He says, you're not considered Jewish. He said, there's a guy sitting over here in yeshiva. He's not even a Jew. So they went and they converted him right away. They did it. I mean, he knew everything, so it was like chick-chack. They did a conversion. But look how God worked it out. Somebody who really wants to be Jewish, you see that how the conversation came up when he was next to it, and everything came out to the open. So. Okay, so anyways, going back, who are these Erev Rav? Erev Rav are these people from when we left Egypt, they wanted to convert to the Jewish nation. And they did, and we converted them. These converts, it says the Vilna Gaon, these are the souls that are coming back nowadays. So they converted, and we're going to soon see they caused a lot of problems for the Jewish nation back then. These are the same souls that are coming back now, and they're the same Erev Rav that were back then. So they were Egyptians that turned into to Jews. And we know also in Kiddushin, in page 49b, it says that Egypt was steeped into sorcery. And it says over there that 10 measures, 10 like parts of sorcery was giving out to the world. Egypt took 9. They say about women and talking, right? Yeah. Okay. So figure the same idea. They took 9 factors. So what is so big about sorcery? What is the underlying essence of sorcery? So magic It's something that is able to make you, it's not only a sleight of hand, I'm talking about real magic. So it's not something that is, it can make something appear something that is not. And the Gemara brings a story down that there was a rabbi who bought a donkey in Mitzrayim. And then when he poured water on it, it turned into a plank of wood. So that was their level that they would be able to do in Egypt. They would be able to make a plank of wood look like a donkey. So what they're able to do is they're able to go and they're able to take something and make it look like it's something else. Now this is the same idea where the underlying essence of it is to free you from any restraint. They have a workaround around everything. This is the day that we're living in now. We have a workaround for everything. In Egypt, it says in the pasuk that God tells Moshe to go and tell Pharaoh to go and let the Jews out. What does Pharaoh reply? Who is this God? I don't know this God. The name is Mi Hashem Asher Yashma B'Kolo. Who is God that I should listen to his voice? This is in Exodus chapter 5 verse 2. Which means is you're denying the existence of God. This is what's happening nowadays, just like Egypt did it back then. Today's Egypt, which is Erev Rav, is doing it the same thing. They're coming and they're all these atheistic people and saying, who are we to really believe in God? And who is this guy? We never seen him before, we don't understand him, it's all nonsense. So and he says something also very interesting. You know, the numerical value for Erev Rav is the same numerical value for Sitra Acha. Sitra Acha is the other side, the evil side. This is like the Satan. So it's the same numerical value. And it's something, the Zohar says something very interesting, that the Erev Rav delayed the redemption more than any other nations in the world. They're causing the biggest delay. So may ask, what's their purpose? Why can't we dish them out? And one of the reasons is that they cause suffering to the Jewish people. These people cause a lot of problems to the Jewish people. The liberals, they cause a lot of suffering to the Jewish people, and this will sort of like make the process quicker for Mashiach to come. Okay, so now let's go for a little bit of a detailed answer on who these Erev Rav are. So it says in Shemot, in chapter 7, verse 2, that the people that converted, the Erev Rav, they all spoke one language. What does that mean, they all spoke one language? The reason is they spoke a specific language, and that was the language of sorcery. The people that converted were actually the magicians. The magicians are the ones that converted to the Jewish. They were part of the Erev Rav. And we know we spoke about this, that Bilam's children were part of the Erev Rav. So they are the ones that are going to be converted. And so God tells Moses, don't they're no good. Don't let them come in. So Moses started arguing. He says, no, but listen. He says, they want to do good. They saw all your wonders. They saw the 10 plagues. He says, now they see the truth faith. Let's bring them in. And Moses went and brought them in. And then we'll see. This is, by the way, the Zohar says this. And this is what this is where the problem started happening. If I could just sidetrack and go back in time a little bit, the origins of these souls. We'll go a little bit Kabbalistic over here. Where did these Erev Rav come? There's a Gemara in Eruvin, in page 18b. It says, Rabbi Yirmiyah, the son of Eliezer, said that Adam Arishon, when he found out that he brought death to the world from the sin of eating from the tree, so he wanted to do an atonement, a kapara. So what he did is he separated from his wife. He separated from his wife for 130 years. Talking about separation. That's 130 years of separation, and including that, he didn't just separate. He also fasted. He's tried to do a lot of teshuvah, but he had unfortunately, since he separated for 130 years, he had unintentional seminal emissions that came out, and says the Gemara that says from this that he fathered Ruchin, Shedin, and Elilin. These are like demons, like these souls that he fathered because he separated in that point in time. Says the Arizal, says, you know who the Erev Rav are? They are those souls that came out unintentionally. So they were, and says Arizal, they were actually high level souls. They were levels of Das according to Kabbalah, and he says, and Arizal brings down also, he says Das and Erev Rav has the same numerical value as well. He says, and they became with like shells. They became not purified, whatever, decontaminated, whatever the terminology that you want to use, when it was wasted. So now they have to go and get their tikkun. They have to go and get rectified. So how are they going to get rectified? They came back already a few times into this world. The first time they came back was in the generation of the flood, and that's why we see. If you look in the psukim, and if you don't mind, I'm going to quote you a few words in Hebrew. In Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 6, verse 7, it says that Vayomer Hashem, after the generation of the flood was going really bad, he says, Emche es ha'adam. I'm going to destroy the Adam. But look at the terminology that he used. Emche ha'adam, the Adam, referring to these are the souls that came back from the original Adam, and they didn't make the correction. But now, they didn't make the correction and they got destroyed. The world was destroyed. They came back a second time. And that second time was in Doa Flaga, the generation of the dispersion, when they built up the tower. And what does it say over there? If you look at Genesis chapter 11, verse 5, it says, Ve'et hamigdal asher banu b'nei ha'adam. Again, the sons of Hadam built again. And again they messed up. So again God dispersed them. And they came a third time, and that is the time of Sodom. And again, they were destroyed. They came the fourth time, says the Arizal, and that was in the Egyptian. These are the souls that were not rectified yet. Came back a fourth time, and they were the Egyptians that came into Egypt, and they were the ones who ended up converting into becoming an Erev Rav. Now look how deep it goes. You have to stay with me for a second over here. It says Yosef, when he went and he had all the food, and it says that Yosef used to make some of them get circumcised. And how do we know this? We see this in Genesis chapter 41, verse 55. It says, "Go to Yosef," says Paro, and do whatever he tells you to do. What is it like? Whatever he tells you to do. What is he going to make you do? Like do a dance for me? It says no. He made them circumcised. Why did he make them circumcised? Because he knew that these people need rectification. What rectification they need? They need a rectification in the milah area. Why? Because that was the source of their soul was in the wasting of the seed. So now here they're coming and getting fixed it again with the brit milah. And this is also.
How does he know?
You're talking about Yosef, one of the tribes. That you have over here, and this is this is also you have over here that just a side thing. Moshe, you know why Moshe pushed for them? Because the sparks of the Erev Rav came from Moshe also. It came from Moshe. That's why. How old was Yocheved, his mother, when he was born? She was 130 years old when she was born. Comparable to her, as show you to compare it to that, was 130 years when Adam separated from his wife Chava. And this also explains. It says Yaakov Avinu also made converts. He also made converts. And how old was Yaakov Avinu when he entered Egypt? 130 years old. Look at Genesis chapter 47, verse 9. So you see over here, there's a big picture going on over here. There's a huge picture, and this is the part where they're supposed to be coming back and to fix it. But we'll soon see that it's not going to be all that nice and dandy, unfortunately. So it says, and this, what happens to them in our generation? They're not just the little people. They become the heads. They become the leaders. And this is what the Vilna Gaon said, that they're going to become the heads of the exile, and this is why they're called Rav. Rav is as if the Erev Rav. Like, that's why they have the terminology of Rav. And I want to share with you something here that is probably the most frightening thing that I'll tell you today. This is from the Divrei Chaim. He says like this. And it's hard. I was actually contemplating if I should put this in or not. But usually when I say that, I usually just put everything in. Right? Because if it's Torah, you have to know it. So it's just the delivery has to be put in the right way. Says the Divrei Chaim over here in Parshat Vayakel. He says like this. It says before the arrival of the Mashiach, there are going to be many rabbis that are going to be from the Erev Rav. The Jewish, the Orthodox rabbis that are going to be part of the Erev Rav. And he says, and he goes on, he says, because Israel themselves are holy, but the Erev Rav, and this is a key to understanding it, how do you know Erev Rav Emunah? They only work for their own benefit. They want to rule over the public. And that's why they go. They chase money, they chase honor. And that's why they want to become rabbis, they want to become leaders. Not because they want to do it for God. And it says the people, that what we have to be careful is when we choose ourselves a rabbi, we have to choose ourselves a rabbi that does it lishma, does it for God. And not in order to receive any benefit. And this is, if you want to know a sign, to know between an Erev Rav and a not Erev Rav, right, this is the litmus test, is not what a person does, but rather what is his motivation or her motivation for doing it. Now there is an idea which we do have to bring up, is mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma, which means is that even if somebody says, listen, I'll keep Shabbat, but only because I enjoy it. Keep Shabbat, do me a favor. Do it. The idea is like this, is that it's better for you to start doing something, even for not the right reasons, because it's eventually going to lead it to the right reasons. But over here we're talking about something very different. We're not talking about over here we're talking about here you're doing something not for not the right reason, you're doing something for the wrong reason. You're doing something for honor. You're doing something for a negative reason, and that's why you're going forward with it. So and he says that these are that's the sign that you tell if someone is from the Erev Rav or not. And I have to put in a disclaimer over here. If you don't like a certain rabbi or the way, don't be like, you know what, I knew it. It's the Erev Rav. I knew that he was Erev Rav. Generally speaking, you have to assume that that you're dealing with if you're dealing with a good Orthodox rabbi, you're assuming that he's a good rabbi. We're going to soon see that where we're referring to, the certain liberals of the call themselves rabbis is what we're referring to over here, and we'll soon explain it as we explain it. Again, this is a very careful subject that I have to be very careful how I present this, and I pray and I hope that it will be delivered the right way, and you'll be able to understand it the right way. Because if it goes the wrong way, this can go very, very bad. So, okay. So he goes on and says, the Erev Rav. You would think of them secular people. This doesn't have to be secular. They can look religious, and they're still a part of the Erev Rav. It says, I want to share with you something that there's a holy sefer called the Toldot Yaakov Yosef. He was a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov, and he This is the first Hasidic work that was ever published. And he has in his Sefer that he says, I heard from my teacher, which is the Baal Shem Tov, 249 times. So he says over here, he says the years before the coming of Mashiach, the evil inclination, you know who it's going to focus on? It's going to focus on the leaders. Because if you get the leaders, then you bring down everybody else. Because once you get the leaders, then you get everybody. So that's what the Yetzer Hara is going to focus on. So it says the Sefer Abrit like this, and it says this is also another sign. We're going to go through signs where you could see something could scream out to you, something is wrong with this particular leader. And that is, he goes, the Sefer Abrit says, and he says you have to be careful of all new customs and groups that don't follow the customs of our forefathers. So let's say some rabbi comes up and says, you know what, or some leader says, this is a new custom that we're going to do, this is going to be this, and one lone rabbi decides to do it. It says, if he is deviating even a little bit from the Shulchan Aruch, you leave him immediately. You find another rabbi. If there's a rabbi that starts preaching that maybe Chazal was wrong, and maybe this, the Shulchan Aruch, what we were talking about earlier, maybe the Shulchan Aruch wasn't so right in this aspect, that is somebody you have to leave right away. That is not somebody be like, well, maybe he meant, no. Find yourself a new rabbi. Yeah, again, another litmus test is that if a rabbi has to follow Shulchan Aruch, that's a code of ethics of the Jewish law. Says Rabbi Yonasan Eibshitz in Yahod Vash. He says, that, due to our many sins, the, jealousy and the zealousness for God has disappeared. And he says, how does he prove this? He says, sometimes there will be a leader, it could even be a rabbi, unfortunately, that gets offended. So you have everybody go, and they go, and which is a good thing. They go and they stand up for the rabbi, which is good. But what happens when God gets offended? When they don't listen to the Torah, and they don't listen to it, everyone's like, oh, whatever, it's fine. When a rabbi all of a sudden does something wrong, he's going to have a petition of thousands of people signing for him saying he's great. But when somebody goes and sin against God, everyone looks the other way. They're like, oh, whatever, it's normal, it's common nowadays. So it says, where's our zealousness? Our zealousness should be for God and the people that go and preach what God wants us to preach. Not those that decide to make a new Torah and decide to tell us, no, this is what God wants you to do, and really this sin is okay, and this sin is not so bad, and everybody, so you have to, these are the things that you have to focus on. The Zohar says like this, says there's 5 different types of Erev Rav. There is the Nephilim, the Giborim, the Anakim, the Rephaim, and the Amalekim. And we're going to go and discuss each and every single one of them. Bezrat Hashem. The Amalekim. So the Amalekim over here, the Amalekites, these are the ones that are left from the time of the flood. And these are actually also part of the dispersion of those that built the tower. These, he says, these type of people, they will be the ones that are going to be ruling over Israel, and they're going to have extreme arrogance. They're ruling, but with arrogance. And not only that, they will also slander and abuse the people that fear God. So they will lead people with their arrogance, and they'll bash everybody that listens to Hashem. And then they're going to oppose anything that's holy. Probably a few names come to mind if you go into the Israeli politics. Okay, number 2 is the Nephilim. Nephilim, where the fallen angels. You guys are familiar with that idea. So Nephilim comes from the name of fallen angels. The angels, very briefly, what happened is that the angels goes and they go to God and say, "Listen, you're putting man over here. Man is going to go and he's going to sin. He's going to do. Who knows how many things he's for sure going to sin." So God said to them, He says, "Listen, if you are on earth like him, you would also sin." And He put them on earth, and they went and they fell in love, and they did plenty of sin. And they were known as the Nephilim, the fallen ones. Their desires are going to be chasing after the lust for food, the lust for money, and the lust for immorality, of desires of women or men, depending on, unfortunately nowadays. So the third one is Giborim. Giborim. These are literal translation is the mighty ones. They are going to come from the side. This is from the Dor HaFlaga. Remember, the first Amalekim was the one from the door of the flood. This one is from the door of the Aflaga, of the building of the Tower of Babel. So these are the ones that said, Vayomer. These are the ones that said in Genesis chapter 11 verse 4. It says, Vayomer havav nibne lanu ir u'migdal v'rosho b'shamayim v'naseh lanu shem, which means let us come and let us build a tower so we could make for us a name. It says these are the souls that are going to come into the world of nowadays, and the Erev Rav, and they're going to build synagogues. They're going to build yeshivot. They're going to put Torah scrolls inside it, and chumashim, and sefarim, and all amazing stuff, but they're not going to do it for the sake of God. Why are they going to do it? So they can make us a name. And I'm not saying anybody who has a name on a building is from the Erev Rav, but I'm saying the whole purpose of building a shul is not for God. It's only for them and only to build themselves a name. So all they really care about is their self-honor. And by the way, Reb Chaim Vital says something scary about these type of people. He says these type of people, and he says it's better that they would have never been born. People that do things not for the sake of heaven. He says, and he quotes also from the Gemara in Brachot, that he says that in Brachot 17, he says, "He who occupies himself with Torah, not for its own sake, it would have been better for him has his fetus overturned, and he would have not have come out into the world." That's how serious it is. What are you up to? Number 4, anything now? The Raphaim. I think it's number 4, right? Number 4. Yeah. Number 4 is Raphaim. Raphaim. So these are people which are very interesting. They have a good heart and they like to go and give. They like to give and they give a lot of charity. They give a lot of donations, but they'll give everybody except for those that study Torah. They're going to give everybody else except for those that study Torah. So, well, they see even if Israel's in trouble. Or I'm talking about Israel as the Jewish people. The Jewish people are in trouble. They have the ability to support it, but they're not. They're not going to help them. They're going to go, and one of the reasons is they oh, thank you. They're going to neglect. Besides being neglecting of the Torah, they are going to go and they're going to try to integrate themselves and make themselves look like the non-Jews. So they'll go and support their, give a donation of scholarship to, Brooklyn College or whatever, some nonsense of wasting your money for that. I don't understand people that go and they donate to all these things. Meanwhile, you have starving people that can't feed their family because they're learning in Torah and Kollel all day, or you have people that, trying to do kiruv. Kiruv is a huge thing. And where are people donating the money to? Let's build another 14 floors up over here, so then maybe we could put another, some sort of dance studio for maybe some, like ladies in the come on, you waste your money. When you invest, you have to invest smart. In this world and in the next world. So, the 5th one is the Anakim. The Anakim are very similar to the Raphaim, which means is they have the ability to help, but they don't help. This one's a little bit different, though. They appear as mitzvah absorbers. They appear as religious Jews, but they lack essential beliefs in Judaism. People that they have the costume of the Jew, but they lack that. And not only do they lack it, they keep it inside, but they say it outside. They mock the Jewish people. They mock people that learn Torah all day. Come on, go find a job. They go and they put the hatred towards these Jewish people. The Vilna Gaon also, he classifies them also in 5, and I'll give you his 5. He doesn't, but I'll just go through the 5 steps that he goes. He says, of the Erev Rav, there's going to be one group that's going to be speaking Lashon Hara. The second group that's going to be pursuing desires of women. The third group is going to be people that are going to be pretending to be righteous people, but in their hearts they're wicked and they're not straight. In the fourth group, they're going to be people that are going to pursue only honor, and that's why they build buildings. And in the fifth group are people that pursue money and strife and anger and gossip and all those things. Okay, so so now you have to be careful when you attach yourself to a righteous person. How do you know that this righteous person is going to be like a legit righteous person? So unfortunately, what we really need is you really need to have siyata d'shmaya. You have to have God's help, that God direct you to the right thing. But you should also pray that God sends you the right person to speak to, and the right person to deal with, and the right person to ask questions, and the right person to attach yourself as your rabbi. But the Chidah goes and says there is another thing that you can build yourself merit, and that is to rebuke people that are sinning. Because there are many people. What does the Erev Rav do? They try to make people sin. Right? One of the telltale signs also of Erev Rav is that they sin and they make other people sin. So what you have to do is you try to make other people do tshuva. Not be like, someone goes and tells you what sin they did the other day. Don't be like, oh, really? Was it fun? Was it enjoyable? Yeah, tell me more. Yeah, oh, wow. How good was it? How did it taste? Just describe to me everything in, minor details in it. That's not really helping that person at all. That'll be like, well, okay, I just got recognized. It's recognition over here. Now I'm going to do it again. But you should go and give them rebuke. And it says even if you can, you give them a book that has good musar in it, or a CD, or send them a link to a class that has some good lecture in it that would wake them up. And this, the Vilna Gaon also says this over here, and also it's based on the Ari HaKadosh Arizal. And he says, it's a win-win situation if you rebuke someone. If you rebuke someone and they change, then everything that they change is you get credit for it. But let's say you rebuke someone and they don't change. And you say, listen, you got to keep Shabbat, you got to keep kosher, you got tzniut, and this is not for me, not for me. If you gave them real rebuke, like heart to heart, not like, okay, I got to check off rebuke on my checklist, because I love God and I wanted to see that. I'd be like, hey, listen, be modest, cool? Be like, no, not interested. All right, well, I tried. I'm like, it's, what is rebuke? Is which means things that come out of a heart go into a heart. If you really want to, and this is why I tell people all the time, I have this conversation constantly, unfortunately, in this community, is, Baruch Hashem, we're having the younger generation becoming religious. But when they get married, the older generation wants to have mixed weddings. And they say it's very difficult. It's very difficult. My parents are not going to listen to me. They're going to want to have a mixed wedding. So, I always tell them the same thing. The idea is the same thing. You have to show your parents what not be like, listen, mom, dad, I'm religious now. It really means important to me that I have separate wedding. Okay, cool. It's my wedding. I'll be like, no, you don't know anything. You're a young pitcher. You go away. We're going to do it the way we want. We're paying for it. We're going to do it that way. That's how it's going to go. But if you go and you open your heart, you open your soul to your parents and be like, listen, this means the world to me, and I understand what you want, and I understand where you're coming from and all the friends, and I really do. And I'm asking you for the bottom of my heart. My one request is, please, I'm begging you, and you really open up to them and say, please, no mixed dancing. No loving parent is going to be like, I don't care what you say. I don't care if you're getting married today. We're paying for it. We're going to do it. If you really open up to that, every parent always wants to do what the child wants. And if you really open up, you're going to be able to do that. So this is the same way that you give rebuke. You give rebuke not in a way that, listen, when you open up, things that come out of the heart go into the heart. When you give rebuke like that, I guarantee you it goes a long run. You know how you have a true friend? If they rebuke you. Not a true friend who always gives you a high five every time you do everything stupid. A true friend is one that tells you, no, you're wrong, you're doing that, you're doing a problem, and you have to wake up. And what happens if you do give a good rebuke? And let's say they still don't listen. Says the Arizal, he says that all the person's merits that he does still goes to you, and all your sins go to him or her. To that.
That is
if you give rebuke and they don't listen. If they listen, you get all the schoolyard anyways. It's a win-win situation. It's a win-win situation. But again, it has to be done right. It has to come from the heart. It has to come from the heart. If it doesn't come from the heart, you could do more problems than good. But if it comes from the heart, it's literally a win-win situation. Okay. The Zohar says, that besides, when Mashiach is going to come, the nations of the world are going to fight against Mashiach. They're not going to want it. You know who else is going to fight against Mashiach? Some Jewish people. Yeah, these Jewish people, these Erev Rav, are also going to fight against the...
Comes, everybody's clear on what's going to go down.
No, there's going to be a war, the final war.
Right, so Mashiach's going to come, there's going to be a war, and then everybody's going to
We're going to, exactly. We'll speak about that. We'll speak about that. That's going to be next class, B'Ezras Hashem. We'll speak about the Gog and Magog, the war. Yeah. A lot of information.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So those people, there are ones that are not going to make it. By the way, let's put a little ideas on it. Listen to what the Zohar says. You know who made the golden calf?
These people.
These people. There was also a sin. These people. The Erev Rav. You know the people that there was a tribe of Shimon that they sinned with the woman of Moab. They did a sin and 24,000 Jewish people perished in that. You're familiar with that story? With Bilam wanted to go and convince people, so he went and he told them, listen, go and seduce all the Jewish men because God hates sonezima, and because of that, He's going to go and cause a lot of people to die, and they did that. But okay, it's remind me afterwards. I'll explain it. to you. It's in the Chumash. So this is the woman of Moab. So there was 24,000 people that died. You know who sinned with Moab? The Erev Rav also. The Erev Rav attached themselves to the tribe of Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they're the ones that died. So they are causing us problems after problems after problems, non-stop. They're also the people that love bribes and they're never satisfied with any money. And it's interesting because we have two Mashiach. We have Mashiach ben Yosef. This is going to be against Esav. We're going to speak about this more when we speak about two Mashiach. But then you have Mashiach ben David. This is against Ishmael. So, if they united together, the Yishmael and Esav, that's where what is the liberal Erev Rav of the Jewish nation? What they try to do? They try to unite them. They try to unite them, and they're going to go also just like they're not only going to try to go against Mashiach, they're going to try to unite also the non-Jews and go and bring them also against Mashiach. So this is what we're dealing with. This is what we see over here. That the seriousness of this situation is not only something that we have to contend. Dealing with a cancer within is much difficult than dealing from a cancer without. This Erev Rav, the exile that we have, the Erev Rav, is a very, very serious one and should not be taken lightly. And the Erev Rav, you think they're not, they don't act as a separation between, I'm sorry, they do act. They act as a separation between us and our Father in heaven. Like a peel of a fruit. So you have the outside, where you are trying to get into the fruit, and the blocking is the peel. So the Erev Rav is like that peel that's blocking the Father in heaven from the Jewish people. And you should not think that we and the Erev Rav were one nation and we're one thing. We're not one nation. They already separated themselves like the peel. They peeled themselves off and they disconnected themselves from the Torah. So we have to go and realize the difference. Now, this is something very tricky. How are you going to realize the difference between the Erev Rav and the people that are just not religious, and the people that are just, they're not Shomer Torah Mitzvot? And the idea is that, the people that are still, the good Jewish souls, they're the ones that they are still, even though they're not yet fulfilling the requirements of the Torah, but they're still honoring the Torah, they're appreciating the Torah, they honor the Torah scholars, they still have this thing, they don't have this hatred against it. And by the way, you should know that I've had people that have hatred against it, but it was superficial hatred. That, within a few classes, they started liking it. I don't know if I mentioned this before, I had one guy that used to come to my class all the time, and he told me, so it became a very close student of mine, and for years, this is going back like a few years, and his friends brought him to the class, and he told, and 6 months go by, came to one class, and then he came to every single class on time. So, oh, look at that, this guy's really interested in learning. So he came over to me one day, 6 months afterwards, and he says, Rabbi, I gotta confess something to you. And I'm like, sure, I guarantee you I haven't heard it all. He says, but this thing, this was a new one for me back then. So he says, when my buddies first told me to come to the class, so I had no interest in Judaism, I had no interest in religion. He says, I said, you know what, I'll come. My sole intent was to make fun. It says, I came to mock you and make fun of you. It says, but you actually said some really interesting stuff. And, I got addicted to it. And he started coming very, very, meticulously from that. So you see even people that even have this, unfortunately, bad look towards Torah, that's not they have this ingrown hatred to it. So you have to be careful, and it's very tricky to realize what it is and what is not, and only God knows. But if you see somebody who constantly spews hatred, or constantly spews that, it's best to separate from those type of people. If you try again and again, they're not doing tshuva, they're not doing that, you try to help them with that, it's better to separate those people, because those people can bring you down more than you can bring them up. And this is why the Sefer Abid writes, this is like a few hundred years ago, he writes and he says, I don't understand. He says, we have so much Torah. We have so much learning. We have so much people learning Mishnayot, Kabbalah, everything. We have yeshivot and yeshivot. Where's Mashiach? What's going on over here? And he says the answer is that I see that everybody, when they're learning, they're not learning for they're not learning for God. They're not learning for the right intentions for Lishma. They're learning only for their own benefit, for their own honor. And he says, and that's why I see the answer. And he says, this also, you have people, they always sing, Lashana Abba B'Yerushalayim. They always go, next year in Jerusalem. So the problem is they really believe that. Next year, I'm not ready for it yet. Next year we'll be in Jerusalem. Or give me a few years, I'm planning on vacation to Hawaii, I'm going to the Thailand, I'm trying to put everything in, I'm sorry. Nepal, who knows where I'm going to. I need to go everywhere. God, Mashiach could come after that. That's not wanting Mashiach. That's wanting Mashiach when you're benefiting, when it's going to be benefit for you. Be like, listen, somebody failed me, somebody cut me off, somebody just stole a lot of money from me. I want Mashiach because I want to see him burn. That's not really the reason that you want Mashiach. You want Mashiach for the right reasons for God, not for you. So the focus that we have to have is we have to focus on the right intentions. This is also, you would think, okay, who's going to bring Mashiach? The big rabbis, the big people, those are going to be Mashiach. No. It's not going to be that. It's going to be the simple people that keep Torah Mitzvot, and even those who are not so meticulous, that those people are the ones that are going to bring the Mashiach. And I want to share with you a short story. This is from Rav Avram Mordechai Alter. Yeah, he later became the Ger Rebbe. His father was a Sfat Emet. His father called him when he was younger, him and his brother, and he said, listen, I want you to go to a certain town. I want you to find this person. He gave him the name of this person, a certain Jew in Warsaw. And he says, I want you to go and get a blessing from him. So they said, fine. They went and they traveled to this town, and they went in and they tried to get find the guys, like, they figure they're going to a big rabbi, like the biggest rabbi, they're traveling to get a blessing. Who knows what this rabbi is going to be? So they said, Rabbi so-and-so? They're like, we're not familiar. And they go from place to place, and finally says, yeah, we know. And they say the guy by the first name. They said, that guy? Yeah, he's over there. And they go in there, they see a guy very simple, living in a very, very modest house, and they go in, they knock on the door and be like, our father's a Sfat Emet. He's like, wow. He's like, well, what brings you over here? He says, the father said he wants us to come here to get a blessing from you. He says, for me, it's like, I think you guys have a mistake. He says, are you so-and-so from this town? And he's like, yeah. He says, no, well, my father told us to get over here. And he kept on going back and forth. He said, I don't know what you can see in me. I'm nothing. I'm a simple guy. I'm nothing. So he says, listen, our father told us, at least can you give us a blessing? He says, fine. In reference to your father and the honor that I have to your father, the big rabbi, he gave them a blessing. After they came back, they asked the father, he said, I don't understand. He says, the guy seemed a very simple guy. He didn't seem like a big righteous guy. So the father said, he says, a short while ago, he had to make a brit milah, and the problem is that he didn't have a penny to his name. He had nothing. He had nothing to even make a modest meal to thank God for the beautiful gift of life that He bestowed upon him. So he was thinking what to do. He says he didn't have anything to sell in his house that they could do. So what he did was he took his bed, he took his mattress, and he brought it out into the marketplace, and he sold it. He sold his only mattress that he has to sleep on, and with that money he went and he gave a brit milah. It was decreed in heaven because of what he did that any blessing that he's going to give is going to be fulfilled. And he says, and the reason why it works even better is because he doesn't even know about it. There's no arrogance. There's just humility. I was like, I don't know. He says, every blessing that he has, this is how you know, the simple people, it's every one of us that we're able to do just one thing, and you don't know what reward that's going to cause in the next world. You don't know what reward that's going to cause you in this world. People say, you know what, I have to become a huge righteous person, otherwise what's the point of even trying? You don't know, by sacrificing one thing, by becoming extra modest in this way, by keeping Shabbat extra better, by keeping kosher extra stricter, you don't know what you're doing. Learning a few minutes extra, you don't know what you're changing in the next world. This can change worlds by just the simple people. And this is what the Arizal says, you think about it, it says nowadays, what do we compare to our great-grandfathers? Imagine to our, 300 years ago. Imagine 2,000 years ago, in the time of the Gemara, right? In the time of the Mishnah, time of the Bet HaMikdash. It says, if they didn't bring Mashiach, how can we bring Mashiach? And this we spoke about it in one of the things in class number 1. But it says that Arizal says, every action, because we have so many temptations in this world, we're living in a world of such impurity. The Rav Nachman Abresav says, before Mashiach comes, there's going to be a flood of immorality. It's going to be a tremendous amount of immorality. So we're living in such an immoral environment, in such a terrible place, that everything that we do is worth so much more than had we done it 2,000 years ago. So the value of the mitzvot that we do today are valued a much higher than we did over there. So we think, granted, we're nothing compared to those righteous people, but our value of our mitzvot can reach so high because you don't know what one little bracha can do. One little day it's extra hot, and you're thinking, okay, maybe I'll be a little bit less modest today, and you're going to know, you don't know what that does. That could do wonders. This is, and this goes on to, and we're wrapping up, and then we're going to come into a close. The students of the Torah. So people that learn Torah, I always found this very, very fascinating. You're learning Torah all day. How can it be if you're learning Torah, you don't change your ways? The purpose of learning Torah is that you're supposed to change yourself, become a better person. You learn Torah, so you come out of class. Every class, by the way, this is an important lesson. Every single class of learning Torah that you do, you could learn something practical. We could be speaking about the most Kabbalistic concepts, but if you have a little bit of imagination, you're able to think about what's something practical that I could take out and that I could implement in my own life to make myself a better person today. Everything can do it. Every single class you can do that. And so the question is, you have these people that are learning Torah, but they have arrogance. They don't have yirat shamayim, fear of heaven. What's going on over here? And the answer is that they don't internalize it. They learn it as a superficial. They don't actually go inside and they don't bring it in. They don't realize that one of the most important things that you have to have as a Jew is, number one, fear of heaven. You have to be fear of heaven. There's supposed to be a yirat shamayim. You have to have fear of God. Because if you have fear of God, you will not sin. If you don't have fear of God, then the only reason you're not sinning could either be because of just the society. It could be because you feel it might be right. But if you have fear of God, if no one's watching, you're not going to sin because you have the fear of God. And also you have to be humble. This is so important for people that are learning Torah all day. So how could it be you're sitting in yeshiva, you're learning Torah all day, and you're learning about yirat shamayim, you're learning about fear of God, you're learning about being humble, but what happens is you don't internalize it. And that's the problem is when you go and you learn, you listen to a class, you have to internalize what you're learning. You have to realize, you have to intake it. So listen, we spoke today a lot about Erev Rav. We have to eradicate the Erev Rav within us, all the heresy that we have, all the heretics. Mi Hashem eshma b'kolo. Who is God that I should listen to His name? We should remove all that from within ourselves. The Erev Rav, they infiltrated our society and our being, and they put on all these heretics values into us. We have to go and eradicate them as well, and the ideas in them. And this is the idea. This is the problem is when you study about God superficially. You have to be something called davuk b'Hashem. You have to be attached to God. And this is what I tell people always. If someone asks me a question about dating, what type of person to look for, one of the most important things is look to somebody who is attached to God. Not somebody who is learning in yeshiva all day, 24 hours a day. That's great. But if he's not attached to God, there's a problem over there. Somebody who's attached to God, who always wants to do the right thing, who always strives to become a better person, that is going to be an amazing spouse. Guaranteed, because he's always going to, or she's going to always want to do better. He's going to always want to be more modest, always want to treat their husband or his wife better, and with more honor, and with better just integrity in the home. Everything is going to go better when you have that. And this is what you have. You have to have this attachment to God.
I'm saying, how do you measure that in a person?
You could see by how a person deals. This is just an overall, this is how you look at how a person acts, and how a person, if he doesn't care about certain stuff, and be like, some people like to pick and choose mitzvot. Be like, yeah, this all particular, but come on. That's not, you're not doing it for God. You're doing it for yourself because you think it's going to come give you some benefit. So it's a really an overall picture. Don't, you sit in a date with a guy, be like, are you attached to God? Like this. Me and God, we're tight. Every time I smoke weed, we talk, we have conversation. I've had these conversations with people before, that they go and they do all these drugs and they're the closest they are to God. Like, you're not close to God. You're having some sort of, brain issues. That's why.
But I know, from people who smoke weed. Yeah, there's a lot.
I'm not. This is not the class today about the weed, because we're going to be about the weed. I feel like we're not talking today about the weed. But it's a whole topic in itself. But no, I'm not talking about that particularly. I'm just giving you an idea, an example of how, I've spoke to people, they're literally, they're potheads, and they think they have the strongest connection to God. You know when I'm spiritual? When I'm high. That means you're not spiritual, because you're not you when you're high. That doesn't mean, granted, it can work to your benefit. Okay, God, fine. Yeah, I'll give you that. But if you're not spiritual when you're not high, that means you're not a spiritual person. Just be honest with yourself. I think these are how people rationalize it. You understand where they rationalize it? I have a class. Unfortunately, everyone comes in stoned. Everybody comes in stoned. I can't tell you which class. It doesn't matter. It's a very, very small group of people. But it's like, I'm like, whatever. This is my clientele. This is who I deal with.
Does anything even get in there?
Yes. Because if you smoke every day, it doesn't affect you as much. Baruch Hashem, that's what they tell me. And by the way, I'm joking. But the brain cells are die. The people that say they're not. I see. We jump from topic to topic. We go ADD. We go and the bicycle and the butterfly. We go. It's nothing that it can't get recorded. Those classes can't get recorded. Yeah, no, I don't get prepared. I stay away from everything like that. What? No, we've gained a lot. We've gained a lot from that. Just because they do that doesn't mean that they're. I mean, don't get me. Don't get the wrong idea. You should never do that. Never come to a class. And I spoke to them about it. I spoke to, it's a whole thing in itself. I probably shouldn't have said this on camera, but whatever. It came up already. It's meant to be, right? So maybe somebody can learn from it. It's a very, very bad thing. Just because it's becoming more common today doesn't mean that it's a good thing. It's a very, very bad thing. It's a very bad trait. It gets you out of your moral compass, and it doesn't make you think straight. And people tell me, no, you think fine. I deal with these people. Their eyes are glazed. They're like half sleeping, and be like, and they can't remember things that happened. They ask the same questions again and again. And be like, come on, you're telling me your brain cells are not dead? I mean, something's got to go on over there. And I've seen these people over time. I see it, that they definitely, something goes on in the brain over there. Something goes off. And so if anybody here, maybe somebody's listening online, I'm sure no one here smokes a lot, but if someone smokes a lot, then realize, maybe it'll wake them up that it's a problem. And it definitely makes your brain slower and moves it slower. And, you'll bring me, then people come and send me all these studies that were done. I'm like, guarantee you these studies were done either by people who are distributing weed or potheads themselves or, something like that. They have some sort of infiltration. You give me, and granted, there are some benefits to it. I'm not going to go. If you go into the medical world, there are some benefits to it, and that's why one of the reasons it's becoming legal. And I'm not, again, even though I'm speaking about it for a long, no, it's for health benefits. There are health benefits. There's no spiritual benefits to it.
Smoking cigarettes.
You have to guard your soul. You have to watch yourself. You can't hurt yourself.
Smoking a cigarette is bad?
Go to a doctor and see what he says.
Okay, but
because you have to be healthy. You have to be healthy. For that same reason.
It's supposed to be healthy?
It's a mitzvah, of course. Yeah, you got to guard your soul. Let's finish up the topic and then we'll go on to all the other off-topic things. Okay? So the idea is over here like this. Listen to this. Listen to when we're doing something, we have to realize our focus in it. Our focus should be lishma. It should be for God. You look at the Pirkei Avot. The 6th parak in Pirkei Avot, the first one, Rabbi Meir Omer. He says like this: Kol ha'osek b'Torah lishma. Whoever deals in the Torah lishma, for the sake of the right sake, he's zochet l'devarim harbeh, and he's benefited many things. And he goes on here for a list of things, and he says not only is it's worth it for him that the whole world was created just for him, and then he's considered loved, and he's considered love to the God, love to everybody. He's making God happy, he's making other people happy. He's going to have humility, and it goes. He's going to be a tzaddik, a chassid, a yashar, a ne'eman. He's going to be distanced from sin. You could go. It's like literally a huge paragraph here of all the benefits if you just do the right thing for the right reasons. And this is how important it is that we have to do the right things for the right reasons. Furthermore, there is it says in Shalei Kedusha that Mashiach is not going to come until jealousy is going to be removed. Jealousy is going to be a seed. And he brings this from the pasuk in Isaiah chapter 11 verse 13. It says Ephraim will not be jealous of Yehuda. And it says something very interesting. I'm looking over here in Pirkei Avot, that Rabbi Yeshua. Here we go. It says over here like this. It says that, first of all, what jealousy is a very, very bad trait. Why is so bad with jealousy? Jealousy causes a lot of hatred to happen to other people. And this is, we know, what is the reason that we have the end of days? Why Mashiach did not come yet? We know sinat chinam. So what's sinat chinam? Baseless hatred, which is jealousy. The same idea. Baseless hatred. Listen to what Rabbi Yeshua says in Pirkei Avot. There's ayin hara, evil eye, v'yetzer hara, evil inclination, v'sinat habriot, and jealousy, and like hating of the briot, motzi'in et ha'adam min ha'olam. Remove a person from this world. Not only for the next world, it makes your life over here already miserable. It removes you from the world over here. And he says over here, and he says that this is the reason why the temple was destroyed. You know number one reason the temple was destroyed? Baseless hatred. Sinat chinam. That's why we don't have Mashiach yet, because we have the baseless hatred over here. So we want, and this is we have an obligation. You're not allowed to hate your brother in your heart. And then we have an obligation also. You have to love your friend like yourself. If you love somebody like yourself, you will never have any bad feelings to them. You will never have any bad ideologies to them. This is why. The one thing that's very important is to realize that, how to get rid of sinat chinam, how to get rid of baseless hatred. Realize that everybody has a purpose in their life. Everybody has a purpose in life, and if you deal with that purpose, and if you realize that, I'd be like, why? Their job is different than my job, and my job is different than his job, and his job is different than her job. Everybody has a different job, and that's why somebody get more, and some people get less. And if you really want to get rid of it, of sinat chinam, is the somebody that you have this sinat, pray for that person. Pray for that person. If you're going to go and pray for that person, and then that person has something good, be like, great, God listen to my prayers. So you start liking it. You start investing into that person. Now,
wait, you said if someone feels hatred towards somebody else, you have to pray for that person?
Pray for that person that it should have a good life. It should be good. It should be successful.
Who's hating.
Yeah.
Another person.
Yeah. The hater and the other person. Because again, the one, because
pray for the hate.
this is a big thing with the Erev Rav, causes a lot of jealousy. Where does jealousy stem from? Arrogance also. So there's a lot of this is all associated with the Erev Rav, and we have to remove these types of character traits within us. Remove this Erev Rav within us and get rid of it. So what do we need to do? The bottom line. We need to go and increase in our study of Torah and increase in our keeping of our mitzvot. This is what we have to do. You want to be, it says something very scary. Before we left Egypt, there was Choshech, the plague of darkness. And what happened to the plague of darkness? A fifth, which is a fifth came out. 80% of the Jewish population died in Egypt. Same thing is going to happen before Mashiach comes. Not everyone's going to make it to Egypt. These are the people that are not going to make it. People that we spoke about now, that are part of these people are not coming into the days of Mashiach. You want to come into the days of Mashiach, you have to make sure that you're able to do it. And this is something very, very important over here. Something I saw recently. The end of days is going to be a test of belief, of emunah. The bottom line, and the more research I'm doing, by the way, on Mashiach and all the svarim I'm buying and I'm reading and all I'm doing that, the one thing that I see consistent is that we have to work on our emunah in the end of days, our faith. Our faith has to be stronger, and this is something that we need to work on. And I don't remember who this was, but I remember seeing this maybe 11 years ago or more even. They asked a rabbi, the big Gadol Ador, and I don't remember what it was, and if somebody knows who it is listening, I looked for the source and I couldn't find it. Please email me, because I was looking for the source. They came over to the rabbi and says, I want to go and what should we work on something? For the nation as a whole, what is something that we need to work on in the end of days? He said, emunah. I remember thinking back, really, that I don't even, maybe modesty, kosher, Shabbat, something, but emunah. It says emunah. We got to work on our faith. And if somebody hears it online, is able to listen to it, please send me because I was trying to find the source and I couldn't find it. So with the test of emunah, how is it expressed? Listen to something amazing. You want to know how the proper emunah is expressed? It is, and this is amazing. It's expressed. I'll give you the proof for it. It's expressed by the proper observance of Shabbat. And listen to this. It's based off the Ta'anit, the Gemara in 8b. It says, those who fear my name, Yirah Shemi, those who fear my name. What does it mean, those who fear my name? You look over there, Rashi over there, it goes and it says, it's those who keep Shabbat are those who fear my name. Those are, who are the going to people that have, they're going to be both there in their Emunah, going to fear my name, are those people, the people that are keeping Shabbat. Look how important and fundamental Shabbat is, also to the end of days. So he said Emunah, but really, you see over here, there's a lot more that goes into it. So, the test that we have to do at the end of the day is to make sure that we give the proper honor and respect to the Torah scholars, and the proper honor and respect to the Torah itself, and to the mitzvot that we are supposed to do. And B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully, will be part of the that 20% that does make it at the end of the days, and not associated with the Erev Rav that's not going to make it. And we'll be able to see Mashiach Meher B'Yameinu, B'ezrat Hashem, very, 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 very soon. Any questions? No questions.
Yeah.
Okay. No questions? Good. Chazak u'Baruch.
Oh wait, hold on. You didn't say that the guy who funded the whole thing today. You didn't say his whatever.
Oh, today I said it earlier, but if you want to do it on camera, today was sponsored by Nahum Shamilov. Thank you very much for sponsoring. It is for Fuah Shlema for Shelima Lydia Bas Celia, and we said also another Fuah Shlema for
Rachel Bachaya.
Rachel Bachaya. Why not? Throw it in.
Thanks.
B'soch Shah Chole Israel. Chazak u'Baruch.